A significant winter storm is on the way that will start late Wednesday night and have impacts all the way through Friday afternoon. Here's the storm system that we're talking about is just now coming ashore off the southern coast of California. That is the same system that's really going to get its act together today and especially into tomorrow. So by the time it hits those areas across the southern plains, it's really going to amplify, and we should set up a significant winter storm starting late Wednesday, especially into Thursday, that will continue during the day on Friday. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel to keep you well ahead of the storm. So here's the setup right now. We've got very high wind warnings out here off into Southern California. Man, some of these winds could be cranking 60, 70, even some isolated reports of 80 to 90 miles an hour is likely not out of the question, with very significant winds with that system approaching. And as it continues, we do have some freeze watches all the way down on the coast of Arizona and New Mexico. But there is the upgraded winter storm watch that does include areas of North Texas, down in Northeast Texas and Southeastern Oklahoma for you, and as well as into Arkansas and the northwestern portions of Louisiana. So right now, this is a significant storm, folks. I mean, this is the latest update for the severity impact index. And yeah, this is widespread. You're talking about a major populated area. About 8 million people live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're looking at moderate to major, even some extreme impacts, because we are expecting some ice, some freezing rain and sleet, likely south of the I-20 corridor, and then likely heavy snow just to the north of there. But if you live in the Fort Worth area, you could be looking at moderate impacts starting as early as Thursday morning, but then transferring to more major impacts that does include most of the Dallas-Fort Worth area during the day on Thursday, especially in the evening time frame. And that would likely extend further north as well as into Oklahoma, eventually heading northeast into Arkansas, and it does clip those areas into Louisiana. But there's even a small pocket down there towards, say, the Tyler vicinity of having some extreme impacts, folks. So this is definitely a dangerous storm that you need to keep well ahead and be in safe regard, because it's definitely coming. So right now we're kind of in between systems, right? We had that first storm that was highlighted across the Central Plains. It swung across the Ohio Valley and ended up off the East Coast. That is finally moving off ashore. So now the atmosphere is more or less kind of resetting, right? So we did have the little system that came through Colorado that picked up a couple of inches of snow for them, but it's just out west. This is a storm system that's just now likely starting to get its act together, and that is going to pull some colder air. So it's got this little snowpack to the north, this renewed snowpack along into the Central Plains. And as the system comes down, it's going to tap into some of that more colder air again out here in Texas. And that is the reason why we do have the significant winter storm that likely will unfold. And one of the concerns with this system is the very high precipitable water anomaly index. So whenever you're seeing something like this, of 200% above average, that is definitely a huge concern. It talks about, we've got a lot of higher water vapor content to be able to work with. So that's going to be able to feed into that storm. So that could have some fairly significant ice totals, as well as some sleet totals, and then eventually some snow totals as well to the north, because we've got such high water content feeding into that upper level low. And that's why we have the winter storm watch in place already, and some of those major, moderate, and even extreme impacts in place. So as we get going, and I think into the morning time frame of Thursday, we're going to have a snow swath that's going to be highlighted across the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We'll likely have a freezing rain sleet mix just to the south of there, and we'll likely just have a colder rain down here towards, say, San Antonio, down into the southeast Houston area. But as we get into the evening time frame of Thursday night, I think that's when we'll have a little bit more significant icing started to take shape, especially there in East Texas and likely south of the DFW Metroplex, south of I-20. But to the north of there, we should have all snow, and heavy snow bands could unfold And this is the time frame where some of these areas could easily pick up some 1 inch per hour snowfall rates as that higher water vapor content feeds into that boundary. So just to the north of there, right, that north of there, that sharp gradient where you're going to have the sleet mix variety just to the north of there, I think that's where you're going to be picking up the more significant snow totals that will likely unfold across portions of North Texas and to southeastern Oklahoma, and eventually heading into Arkansas with that all snow going into the overnight hours. It likely starts to wind down with still some light snow around even into Friday morning for those areas across North Texas and Northeast Texas. Southeastern Oklahoma, as well as in a good part of Arkansas, should be under the gun with all that heavier snow by then, into northern portions of Mississippi as well as into Tennessee. And then further south, it's just likely all rain. So as we extend the view, that vorticity index will be traversing across the southern plains. And we still got some colder air coming in from the northwest, right? So we'll have some of that warm nose inversion to the south, and we'll still have that gradient, that battle zone in the middle. And then likely we'll have the snow continuing to fly as this continues to lift up into the Tennessee Valley. And then as the, a little bit colder air is going to be tapping into that newly fresh snowpack. So I think it continues to remain on the colder side for pretty much all week long. So as we get into late Friday night into early Saturday morning, we should have that snow swath still extending through Arkansas, back into Missouri, this time up into Illinois, getting into Indiana. And it's all like a slushy mess there in Tennessee, especially as we get into the Carolinas. Northern portions of Georgia could be picking up just a icy, slushy, sleety, mix, freezing rain type atmosphere. And then that transfers into North Carolina as well, with more significant icing likely to take shape in North Carolina and into Virginia. And then to the north of there in West Virginia, it should be all snow extending into Pennsylvania, as well as into upstate New York, and eventually sneaks off the coast. But I think this remains far enough off the coast that we're not going to be picking up more or less significant totals around the I-95 corridor. We're likely going to pick up some snow, but not any significant amounts that looks to unfold as we head into the weekend. But overall, the breakdown looks like this. We're going to have a pretty extensive snow swath. The setup is going to be a sharp gradient, folks. Not everybody's going to get the higher amounts, right? It's a widespread 3 to 6 inches across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, southeastern Oklahoma, but there is going to be a narrow band that will likely set up with some of those 1 inch per hour snowfall rates at times. So yes, I'm expecting more areas to be above that 3 to 6 inch totals and be more in line with that 8 to 10 and some of those isolated areas within North Texas, Northeast Texas, heading into Arkansas, southeastern portions of Oklahoma, and getting into northern areas of even possibly Tennessee as this into Mississippi as this continues to lift up into Tennessee, into Kentucky, as well as into West Virginia. But there below that, we're going to have the sleet mix, right? So there's that sharp gradient just to the south of there. It could be a mix, could be a sleet mix, but we should see some accumulating mixing totals as well. And to West Texas, areas of North Texas, there's areas across this boundary into Arkansas, across the southeast into the Carolinas, and there's your ice likely starting to set up as well. So the mesoscale models are just now coming into range with this particular setup, because you're usually not in range until about 48 hours out, and that system is just now coming ashore off the west coast. So the data is coming together in more congruency that we could be picking up a little bit more significant storm unfolding across the southern plains. And there's the newly fresh snowpack, right? So that's laying the groundwork for that first system that will tap into that second system. So that's why that second system is likely a little bit colder than what it could have been without that snowpack, right? So we've got that fresh snowpack that's going to keep the cold air locked in place pretty much all week long, especially with the blocking setup that will likely unfold over the top whenever you see something like this that typically traps the colder air underneath, especially when you have that newly snowpack that's going to be aligning a good part of the lower 48, which would keep the southern part of the lower 48 on the colder side for the extended period of time. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update. Why I protect you before and after the storm.